The National Youth Conference, in conjunction with the Ministry of Gender Equality, Poverty Eradication and Child Welfare, is convening a national conference for youth from marginalized communities and Indigenous minorities in Namibia that will take place from the 22nd to the 26th of May this year in Swakopmund, that is in the Erongo region. Joining us with more information on this is the board member of the National Youth Council, Beverly Silas. Garas. Good morning, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Please give us a brief background on this three-day conference and what exactly it hopes to achieve.
All right. The National Conference for Marginalized Communities is a conference that will bring together 140 delegates from marginalized communities, mainly the San, Overture, and Overchimba. And the objective is to bring this youth together to deliberate on the issues and challenges affecting them in Namibia, to also constitute an interim national committee, and for the establishment of this youth organization. Yes.
Why is this group of the marginalized targeted for this conference specifically?
As the National Youth Council of Namibia, the National Youth Council is mandated with the representation of all youth in Namibia, more especially the youth living with disabilities. But to date, there is no youth organization representing the interest of marginalized communities. The National Youth Council Act provides for one of the board directors to actually be a youth from marginalized communities. And that is the portfolio that I am currently sitting in. However, as an umbrella body for youth organizations, NYC affiliates youth organizations from various sectors, the political, the religious, the welfare. But so far, we have a youth organization for youth living with disabilities, but there is no organization for marginalized communities. And that's why the National Youth Council saw to it that there be a national organization established for youth from marginalized communities. And we partnered with Ministry of Gender, the Division for Marginalized Communities, as a co-host to actually host this first ever national conference for the youth coming from marginalized communities. And UNDESA came on board as a sponsor for this conference. Yes.
How will this collaboration to host this conference then propel into creating an organization for marginalized communities?
The marginalized communities are namely the San, Overture, and Overchimba. And the classification under the San, it has plus minus 7 to 9 subgroups in the San, and they actually speak different language among themselves. And then we have the Overture and we have the Overchimba. Now, this conference seeks to have a leadership, a structured leadership comments for this youth so they can deliberate on these issues. Them having an organization, a national organization, will be helpful in them having a voice, them having a seat on various platforms, be it social, be it political, be it economic platforms, because the voice of marginalized communities are often excluded. And it is also the mandate of this specific division in Ministry of Gender, Poverty Eradication and Social Welfare, this division for marginalized communities, to ensure that marginalized communities are integrated into the society, that they are mainstreamed into the economic society, in line with the national, regional, and international instruments that we have rectified as a country, and that these communities are not left behind. Yes.
All right. Apart from you mentioning that the voices of the marginalized communities are currently silent, what would you then say from your engagement with the leaders, considering that there will be a leadership for the organization formed at the conference, or those are some of the objectives? What would you say are the challenges faced by this group of people?
When we look on the intervention set out by NDP 5, there were few factors that were identified as factors that render previous interventions ineffective, which is the high usage of alcohol consumption. It is the low levels of education in these communities. It is the interventions that actually draw a structural dependence from these communities, and also a lack of wanting to accumulate and maintain assets, because marginalized communities, their type of lifestyle has always been nomadic, in the sense that they have been more closely related to nature. So integration is a process that happens over time, and integrating somebody that has been sidelined for a very long time takes time. For example, one of the interventions that I can applaud today is the mobile schools that were introduced in the Kunene region. It's a nomadic community that moves with the seasons. So what better way to ensure they have education through a mobile school that renders or affords them education. Now with marginalized communities, because they are so diverse under the specific term, it is important to come up with various strategies that actually addresses each and every community's challenges on its own. A one-size-fits-all approach does not work with them, because a youth from marginalized communities that is sitting in Tumkwe, that is sitting at Erongo, that youth's needs differs from a youth from marginalized communities that's actually here in Windhoek. So it's very important that through this organization, they have lobbying power. As an organization, I, as Beverly, have little power, even though I am a board director at National Youth Council representing their interest and their voice. I cannot be everywhere. And it's not only fair that I must be everywhere. So what a beautiful thing it will be if we have an organization as a representative body that can seek audience with various almas, that can bring their voice to the table, that can be given an opportunity. And it is very important that they start this organization on a good platform, on a good foundation, with capacity building, that they are actually capacitated with knowledge on how to run an organization, because a lot of organizations fail due to lack of good governance. And it's very important that we capacitate them, not only as a once-off intervention, but moving forward, because this organization will be established with an interim national committee. But the normal way in which you establish an organization is usually bottom to top. But in this instance, because it's an ad hoc intervention, we are starting top to bottom. So after the establishment of the national committee, the interim national committee, the establishment of the organization, now this interim leadership has to go forward with establishing the regional and the constituency level leadership. And after that process is done, they would now have to host another national conference where they will elect their national committee again.
Talk to us through some of the activities that the National Youth Council will have in place to ensure that this leadership, or rather this organization, are capacitated, as you mentioned.
All right. Part of the activities we have on the program is capacity building. It's leadership training. Various OMAs will be presenting on what their roles are. And this is just to also help them understand how channels of government works. It is also to ensure that starting out as a young organization, that they actually establish relations with the various ministries in order to tackle some of their challenges. We will also be giving them some exposure, because mind you, some of the youth from marginalized communities have actually never seen even the sea. And that's why we were very specific in hosting this conference in Swakopmund.
Why that was selected as a location?
We were like, let's give them some luxury. Let's expose them. Let's allow them to feel included and see the beauty of Namibia, because they are Namibian citizens and they should feel like Namibian citizens.
Oh, that's beautiful, Beverly. But now when we talk about marginalized communities, I think one of the positives about them is that they have managed to maintain and preserve their culture. And also, though, unfortunately, capacitating them or including them into the economy could also pose a threat to the culture. So how do we find a balance in this?
The balance in culture, cultural preservation and modernization is a thin line. And that's why a lot of community members are quite hesitant to be integrated, because integration comes with the risk of losing sometimes your language, because a lot of youth that were raised in the urban towns, they actually don't know their languages. And those are indigenous languages that need to be preserved. But also one of the objectives of establishing this organization is for them to lobby their fellow youth to actually study to become language teachers, to preserve their language and their cultural identity. A lot of youth from marginalized communities actually shy away from saying, I'm a San person, I'm an Overtua person, I'm an Overchimba person. You will hardly find them saying that. You only see them when the benefit accrues. And we want that cultural identity to also be placed upon them so they can own up to this. Coming from marginalized communities, it's not a shame.
It shouldn't be.
It's unfortunate that the term is regarded degradatory by certain persons, but the aim or the reason why this term was given is because these people were living on the margins of life. Slowly but surely, because of what happened, they would move to the margins of life, excluding themselves from the general society. And that is what further marginalized them. Yes.
All right. Now, when we speak about this conference, rather, please round up for us exactly what will be happening, when and where.
All right. This conference will be taking place in Swakopmund from the 22nd to the 24th of May 2023. And Swakopmund will be hosting 140 delegates from across Namibia, from marginalized communities, the San, Overtua, Overchimba. The objective of this conference is to bring them together for them to deliberate on issues and challenges that are affecting them. They should also come up with resolutions or interventions that can solve these challenges. They would also now need to strategize and give a direction for this proposed organization to actually represent their aspirations and interests. And it is also for them now to go through the proposed terms and provisions of the Constitution for this marginalized communities youth organization, and to constitute the organization at the end of this conference.
All right. Thank you so much for being here, and all the best with the conference.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, that was Beverly Silas, Garas, who is a board member of the National Youth Council, and she was talking to us about a conference that will be held in Swakopmund, that is the youth from the marginalized communities and indigenous minorities. We will be back shortly. Stay with us.